Well, hi everybody. February 1st, I'm doing a garden walkthrough tour. Just so you know, I haven't really been doing anything, but I am starting to freshen up and clean up some things. Front yard I haven't touched, still have everything growing. I've got some dill growing in here, and of course my lettuce that we've been using in here, and I keep this closed so the rabbits can't get to that. Over here, I've got my mustard. We harvest this all the time. Look at this one mustard plant. Look how big it is. There's a little one there doing really, really well. You know what this is? This is potato. It came up in my compost in place. I could easily just chop it and drop it if I didn't want it to grow, and that would kill it. Or I could just leave it. For now, I'm going to leave it since I really haven't done anything in here. I've just got the mustard. That's the sorrel that was sitting in a pot somewhere and it was kind of dying away. Look at this. It's still in the pot. So the roots have left. It's gone into my compost container, and that is one beautiful plant. That's why I love leaving things in pots and just letting them grow. But right now the front yard is pretty much just as it was a couple weeks ago. I've got here a tree collard that broke off. And what I did here was, instead of chopping it and composting it, I trimmed it back and I stuck it in this pot in another one of my compost in place. And see, I threw some native soil on top. I haven't even thrown any wood chips on top of that. And you know, it's been sitting there for the past 2 weeks like that. So maybe it will take hold and maybe I'll have another tree collard, because with the wind we had, it just snapped. So I trimmed off all the big leaves and just stuck it in there. So we'll see. Those are a bunch of little dinosaur kale cuttings I put in there, and they're doing really good. They've taken root, so I can move them anywhere I want later. And this was my sprouting broccoli. Chopped a piece off a couple weeks ago, and it's still growing. I should snap the top off and eat it. I'll do it after the video. So right now in the front yard, not much is going on. The tomato plant here, believe it or not, is still going strong all winter, and we've got tomatoes. The squash plant really isn't doing well. I mean, it's not even supposed to be growing. Got a little bit of squash starting, but otherwise this is really an old plant, so I will probably end up taking that out and planting new very soon. Parsley's growing back there, and again, another dinosaur kale that I trimmed off of my big plant and just stuck it in there. So, like I said, here I haven't done anything. Just kind of still analyzing on what I want to do for spring. Here's another sorrel down here. See how small that one is? That plant's like 2 years old, but the one I put there that was dying away is just doing beautiful. So if you've got something that's not doing good and you've got containers and you're composting in place, sit the pot on top. Just let it do its thing. The little fine roots will come out the bottom of your pot, and it will just feed off of your compost in place container. Not much else going through here, all the same stuff. We've got some walking onion, a little bit of mint still coming through, and green sorrel. And then over here, you know, I never show over here, back here. That's a stevia plant. And it still has some green leaves. They really die back for the winter. I think it's warm because it's up against the house and the plant is sheltering it. This monster thing that keeps getting bigger and bigger. I trim it back and it gets really big. So again, everything is a microclimates. So that's doing okay, and I'll just leave it. These are my containers out front that has a tomato and basil, and it's pretty sad. Well, it's winter, and yet it's still throwing tomatoes. Isn't that something? So I want to do some cuttings off of this in case the plant itself does not come back. And then here's more tomatoes coming over here. And I'm going to trim this back and decide what I'm going to plant here. Now, there is a chance when I trim it back that these may not be dead. So when you trim them all the way back, it might start brand new growth from the base. Not the dirt itself or the soil itself, but when you trim them back, they might get new shoots and then start a whole new plant. A lot of times it does that. So I'll see. I haven't decided. Or I just put new tomato plants in there. This is peppermint, and this is the way it's supposed to look in the winter. Today's not bad. We're 62 degrees today, but we've been really cold at night too, you know, for some of these plants. So they don't do as well. But see, new growth coming through on the peppermint on the bottom. And here too, see, all new growth is coming through. So a lot of this will be cut back. I'll just have to trim this all back. and then let the new growth come through. See, that's all new growth down there. Even here, and this is peppermint. Just plain old peppermint mint. Oh, so good. All right. This is the stevia plants, and I'm leaving them alone right now. I've got very little stevia growing because it's not a winter plant, but that will come back from the base as well. It will also drop seeds around, come back from seed. I prefer it coming back from the base because I know my plant tastes really, really good. But either way, and then this is where I normally have my ginger, my turmeric, all that growing. We already harvested all that. I did a video on that. And as soon as the weather warms up, I'll start putting new ginger pieces and turmeric in there and get that going. So I keep this table, because it works so well, strictly for my stevia, ginger, and turmeric. Okay, now let's go into the other yard. All the birds are feeding. Okay, here, same thing. Mint is going to look sad this time of the year. Walking onion, even the walking onion looks a little droopy. He's not really thrilled about the cold weather, but I harvest and use that all year, all through winter. Let's see, over here, another one of my dinosaur kales you've seen. And look at that. And we've been harvesting off of that. Just chopped a piece off that was broken or, hanging off there and just stuck it in there and it grew really good. This is the brown berry tomatoes. These things have been going constantly all year, and that's going to turn into one of my favorites because of how well it loves our weather here. It just grows and grows. Look how big it is. We're in the middle of winter and it just keeps going and going and going. So that's just amazing. So I'm going to compost and place more in the center there, build this up a little bit more and get something else in there as well, but that's later. Another month or two is when we really get serious. These tubs have to be redone. Let's see what's here. Oh, some cuttings from, looks like sprouting broccoli probably. And then of course this one came up. That's just collard. Back there is oregano, but it's really sparse right now. There's my red tub with my wire top. Look at that. And if I didn't want anything to get it, I've talked about it. If you got a dog problem, a stepping stone, but you want air to still get to it, or a flower pot with something growing in it. Here is dinosaur kale. The birds have been really doing a number on this. They are chewing the new growth. See what they're doing? They chew the new growth and then leaves come in and they look terrible. So I can fix that with tool if I wanted to. Like, see, they're not chewing on this one. And these are just gorgeous. And don't forget, yellow leaves, you never throw them away. They go right back in. And then, of course, I've got some curly kale back there and more curly kale, lemon verbena. This is a papaya that came up. You've seen that. And, oh, that's a video I want to do on tulle. I'll tell you more about that. Because when I throw tulle around, it doesn't stay. Sometimes it gets, the rabbits get attached to it and run off with it. They don't mean to, but it got stuck in their nails. So I've got different ways now of keeping that tulle in place. So we'll do that soon because I think a lot of people can use it. See what they've done? See the damage? Look at this. This is what happens when they chew on the leaves. They sit there and they just eat it. It looks like lace. Oh my goodness, look at that. I'm growing lace collard. No, I'm not. I'm lace collard. Lace kale. No, I'm not. This is that, look at purple sprouting broccoli. My trunk is purple, but I have yet to see a single sprouting broccoli or anything come up yet. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I see something. Okay, we're going to have to watch that. It's the first time I've seen anything. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's going to throw a head on it. I don't know, but that's it. It kind of fell over. It turned into this gigantic plant. And we put a post there, tied a hose around it to hold it up. Probably should just start over. But anyways, look at the tomatoes. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? That's what you want to do. When you find you've got tomatoes, a variety or whatever came up in your yard that is growing in your yard, that's the tomato you want to get cuttings from. That's the tomato you want to keep growing. And it likes your yard, and that's what's important. You want something that's going to grow in your yard because something may grow in your neighbor's yard. It doesn't mean it's going to grow in your yard. every spot on your property has a microclimate. And I'll talk more about that when I get to the other side of the yard. This is Popolo. It's still throwing some seeds. See, they're still opening because these are green and they haven't opened yet. But it's gone. It's not going to come back. Popolo does not come back. Once it goes to flower, it's done. There are no leaves, but we did figure out how we can save the leaves for eating. I'm going to be honest. I'm not really big on Popolo, but Gary loves it. There are ways of keeping the leaves alive if you want to eat them. And that is collect some leaves, drop them in an ice cube tray, fill it with water, and when you freeze them in ice cubes, the Popolo leaves stay almost as strong as when you picked them off the plant. I have found I cannot dry Popolo. If you dry it, the taste is gone, the flavor's gone. It just disappears. Okay, let me swing over here to show you nothing is going on yet. Celery. Celery grows everywhere. If I don't pay attention, it will come up. It's such a fine seed, it just comes up. Same thing here, all these tubs have to be groomed. My mushroom plant is growing. This is a Russian purple kale or red kale. That's been there, it's getting old. It's been there for a while, but otherwise nothing else is going on. So I'm gonna swing you back. And like I said, I'm starting to think about how I wanna do my garden. And I'm going to spend more time in my garden this year. I'm changing things up, and if I can, and more time, whatever I figure out, to share it with you. That's what I want to do. I'm going to devote more time into all of that. Now, this is my field of sprouting broccoli, and we eat off this all year long. Look at this. This is Kitty's favorite, and this is my favorite. You just come out here. I would eat it now, but then I'd be talking to you with a full mouth. Look how beautiful. Stir fry, snap a bunch off, put a little bit of butter, olive oil on the stove, on a frying pan. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Unfortunately, most of ours gets eaten raw. My strawberry tower is trying to make a comeback on its own. I haven't even freshened it up with new strawberries. But the plants are already starting to flower. Okay, let me keep going. Let's see what's over here. We were feeding the birds here. Today we're feeding the birds here, but it's been raining, so Gary's been feeding them on the table with the umbrella, because when it's pouring, they're still looking for food, and so he moved the bowl over there so they can continue to feed, which was quite nice, because we've had a lot of rain lately. This is just a collard plant, not a tree collard, just a collard plant. Kind of grows like bonsai. Look at that. Grows all there. This is one plant. See all the big trunks coming through? One plant. You can see it now because I've cleaned up a lot of stuff going on here. And I want to be able to get to everything. And that's been my problem, is I can't get to everything. See all the broccoli? It's just so cool. There's just so much broccoli now. Broccoli likes it when it's cool. And then, of course, more collard coming up. And then this is the dazzling blue. I think this is called dazzling blue kale. Look at that. This is the one I did a video on. Look at more broccoli. Isn't that gorgeous? This is the one I did a video on where that pot is and that stepping stone. I dug a hole. I composted in place right there. Just dug a hole, dumped a bunch of kitchen scraps, rotting leaves, brushed over some native soil, and then I put a pot on top. The roots for that little plant, it was a little plant that I put there, just fed on the breaking down matter in there because of all the microbes and everything, and the earthworms gravitating to it. And now this has turned into a tree. Is that the right thing to do? Probably not. People are out there screaming, no, you're supposed to plant it and then chop it out and start over in the spring again. Well, I like a food forest. I like to plant it, and if it's going to survive, it can stay here. Look at all the broccoli. Everywhere I turn, there's broccoli. Isn't that cool? This is all broccoli growing. Just sit out here, snap it, eat it. So cool. My solar fountains are not working today because it's going to rain again. I'm out here before it starts to rain. We've had thunder and lightning, and we had another, inch and a half of rain, and there's supposed to be a bigger storm coming. So I'm out here in between all the rain. Okay, pepinos. See, speaking of microclimates, my pepinos are flowering. They're not really doing anything here. And yet in Gary's garden, he's got pepinos everywhere. And then in the summer, I had loaded up with pepinos here where he didn't have that many pepinos in his garden. So something about the microclimate, they did better Here in the summer, on top, there is actually a small one forming there, but he's just loaded with them. So it's, you know, every plant likes different things. That is an avocado that I don't want there. It came up in the compost. All right, over here, same thing. I really got to clean all this up. There's those black tomatoes, and I do want to get cuttings off of that because they hang in there just all year long. What they'll do, this black variety, is, I think they're called midnight snacks. So they're a small tomato. When they ripen, they turn kind of red. So they're really, really cool. They get a reddish orange look to it, but they still are black. It's kind of a hue, and I don't have any that are ripe here because as soon as they look ripe, we grab them and eat them. But that is a really cool tomato. In fact, here's the steak I got from them. I bought them last summer. They were on a table to, you know, half price to get them out on clearance, and they did really well. So I'm going to do some cuttings and get more cuttings going. There's my lemon balm I bought. Just stuck it out here. It's still in the pot. But see what the pot did? It set root. And I'm not sure where I want to plant it, but look at the new growth. Underneath, you've got new, beautiful growth. And on top, it's all yellow. Why? It's warmer over here. So it prefers it warmer, like mint. Not real big with the wind chill, so it turns yellow, but underneath it's going good. So I'll have to figure out where I want to put that. I think that's a turnip over there, and I should pick that and do something with that. Okay, I'm going to swing you around one more time. Not much going on here. And there is my curry plant that I have yet to ever use for anything. I think Gary snaps pieces off and eats it, but I don't really eat much on it. Oh, something came back and ate the leaves. You know, I found that the rabbits are climbing, and I didn't know they climbed so well. So yeah, I had my garden cameras on, and I was watching, and I couldn't believe I saw the rabbits fighting. And then they got into my pots, literally inside these tall pots. Some of them are 5-gallon pots. And they were bouncing around. And they even got on top of my water feature pot, my water fountain, the one I made. I don't know. I'm not really happy about this. See that? It just sat on top, and then they were chasing each other around. It was fun to watch, but wasn't happy watching them eat my plants in my garden. I'm thinking I don't even know if I want that here. That is a papaya tree that's coming up, and the pot is breaking away because it's going to break through and get big, and I'm not sure if I want a papaya tree here because this is where I walk, this is where I garden, and you know, it's fine now, it's so small, but when you think of how big they get, do I really want something that big in the middle of my garden where I'm going to have to walk around it all the time? I don't know. I have to think about that. This is parsley, flat leaf parsley that came up. Look at the seeds. And if I want those seeds, I am going to have to collect them quick because otherwise the birds will eat them. It's doing really well here because, again, it's getting a lot of water because I wash out my bird bath and I flush it, you know, every couple days, and the water runs down there, and that's why it's doing so well. See how the mint on the bottom here, spearmint? I cut it all the way back. It's still green down there, but I don't want it growing so far out. So I'm going to kind of trim it back a little bit because I want to be able to get in between and see what's going on. I can never walk back here. And I've got the pots there with open bottoms that I want to be able to plant in. So I can plant a tomato there, and it can grow up on the wire. I can trim back the geranium and give the tomato plant, let's say, more room. This here is going to be cleaned up. I'm not even sure what's coming up down there. It looks like some sort of squash plant or something's coming up down there. I didn't plant it. But I'm going to have to get rid of all this tomato plant. A lot of it is dead and it's dying back, so I want to get rid of that. This is just collard. I believe it's one big collard that throws all these different shoots. And then I've got a tree collard in the back. So that's something different. See, I'm cleaning up in here. And I'm throwing leaves, and I'll throw some kitchen scraps. That's not draining, so I will move that pot when I'm ready, and the same thing with that one, or drill some holes on the side. Like I said, we've had tons of rain. So I'll be able to evaluate my pots as to which ones are draining or not draining or what is going on. So I've got a lot of cleaning to do, but let's get through this weather and start thinking about what I want to do. You know what's in here? Look at that. See all these? What do you think it is? You got it. It's baby collard coming up. So the plant dropped its seeds in there. It's been sitting there all winter, and It's starting to come up. So I can leave them, and maybe I will. I might just leave them and let the collards come up that way and there, and then plant something else in the rest of it. Same thing back there. I want to clean all these tubs up again. When I say clean, it's basically freshening them up. Double check and make sure they're draining well, and then put some more kitchen scraps on top, more leaves. And then remember, you do want to top it with something like maybe a little bit of native soil, or you could buy potting mix or cheap garden mix from the big box stores if you want. Just put it on top, because it's got to be covered. See, when there's leaves laying on the top leaves aren't breaking down. Everything's breaking down underneath, because like an orange, it's its cover. You know, think of an orange, it's got skin and you peel it. That's a cover. But the moment you cover that, it will break down and it will turn into soil. So you want to cover it. Right now, I don't care. I'll throw more leaves on top, and then the top will become underneath. But when I'm ready to plant, I'll do something else. So right now, it's just kind of evaluating on what I want to do. Garlic chives are everywhere too. This is a tree collard that, shame on me, I forgot. I wanted to stake this. It's starting to curl, and I need to get that staked soon. More purple or blue dazzling kale. Look at that. And what it's doing, let's back up a little bit. So I've got an eggplant in here. Let me back up this way. I've got an eggplant growing in the pot, see? And then I've got a triple decker. I've got 3 pots, a bigger one on the bottom, another flower pot, another one. Those are those free pots I get. And I had stuff growing around the sides of each one. It was a decker. And then on the top, I believe I wanted to only plant one, but when I pulled the plant and put the plant in there, there were 2 stuck together, so I left them. And now I ended up with this massive tree, which is good. And I've kind of got it poorly staked up right now. But see all these? If I wanted to, I could cut that right there and just stick it in another pot. And I can have all these as different plants. And then, of course, when you do that, your leaves will even get bigger, because right now this one trunk down here, I'm trying not to move the camera too fast. See, they're all trying to grow. This trunk, see how it's feeding all this. So think of it, all the water and nutrients are coming up, and got a little bit stopping there, a little bit stopping there, and it's going to each part of the plant. So by the time it reaches the top will take the rest. If I wanted these leaves to be even bigger than what they are, and they're already big, you would trim all this off, and then the entire trunk would be feeding the main top of the plant, which to me, I don't care. So this is fine. But you think about it, it's running up there and it's got to feed the whole plant. Look how nice that is. I've got to grab some more of those yellow leaves and compost that. Isn't that beautiful? Then of course, those are brown berry tomatoes back there. They've dropped behind the wall, and there's just tomatoes everywhere. So brown berry is a good variety, and the midnight snack are really good for this area. And then of course, what are these called? The sun golds, I believe. Yep, the sun golds. They have been going all year too. Look at them. They are just full of tomatoes. I like growing, personally, smaller tomatoes because you get them quicker. If you grow a really big variety, you got to wait longer till they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the longer you wait, in my garden, the more chance of something finding them before me. So I prefer the smaller. You can use the smaller for everything, but everybody's got their own taste. That is not to say I don't grow bigger tomatoes. I do. And when, sometimes I just plant them, or sometimes they come up, and that's perfectly fine. Just personal preference is I like the smaller ones, because that means you're always going to have tomatoes here. Always have tomatoes. And cut them up, cook with them, eat them raw, put them in a salad, put them in a sandwich, doesn't matter what size. I just want them to taste good. Now this got really skinny and has small leaves on the top, the curly purple kale, but it's still doing okay. I can decide what I'm going to do. If I didn't want this plant here, I could chop the top off, put that in soil, reroot that, and then get rid of the rest of it. So I can decide what I want to do. Here's another eggplant, see? A lot of flowers right now. So we should have eggplant pretty soon, but we got flowers all in there. Oh, and there's another tree collard. Look at the size of that. Tree collards. The best way to get a true tree collard that's a good variety is to get cuttings. See all the bottom? Let me see if I can zoom in. Now see, those are like baby plants on the trunk. And that's what you want, because if you get seeds, here would be my problem. And my tree collards have not flowered, so I have not gotten any seeds. But if you did get seeds from somebody, and they did have a kale, or they did have regular collard growing, you don't know what the tree collards from the seeds are going to look like. You have a chance of ending up with something else completely different. Is it going to be bad? No, but it won't be what you thought. Look at this tree collard. They do get massive, and I will say I was not even prepared for it. Look at the trunk on that. Look at the leaves on this. You know what I did last night? I brought in one leaf and chopped it up, grated up an organic carrot, took some green onions and a little bit of mayonnaise, vinegar, dash of sugar, salt, pepper, and I made coleslaw out of one leaf. I had a great big bowl of coleslaw instead of using cabbage. I like the tree collard. It doesn't have a bite to it. It's kind of a really mild flavor, so it's very cabbage-like. And that's why I like, look at this. This fountain's going. Isn't that something? And I need to take that apart, clean it, and move it. The tomatoes growing into it. I don't know why that's the only one going. And we don't even have any sunlight, but yet, you know, they're all different. That solar panel over there, I guess it's over there, is still, I've got the wire coming through, going through the tomato, coming back here. And look at that. That is solar powered. Isn't that amazing? It's something. All right. Well, anyways, tree collards, try to get cuttings. Check your nursery. Some people have asked me, where do you get them? Go to a local nursery and ask them if they can get some in, because generally you can find them. And I have found that usually with tree collards, you're not going to find them in a 6-pack like you would broccoli or lettuce or different things. They usually get those in single pots. Well, because if you're getting true cuttings, they're going to come in single pots. And that's what you want. So see if they're going to get any in, and you don't need a whole bunch. If you're not doing a farmer's market and it's just for yourself, you don't need a whole bunch. But look at that. See, this can be cut. That's what happened to it. This particular plant lost one of its limbs, and that's what's out front. And see, technically, I should be taking all those small ones off, and which I will do soon, and get them going, because they're really good eating. I like the taste of them. They're really, really good. Oh, I'm trying to squeeze through here. Okay. There is my container that needs to be freshened up. The tomatoes pretty much gone. Still have some green beans on there. It doesn't matter that they've turned a little black. That's just a little bit of outside common garden mold. It's not going to hurt anything. Seeds inside are doing great, and I can plant those seeds anywhere I think I want to have some green beans. I always forget to pick them. That's why I have so many. I just stick them everywhere. But you know what? They're a nitrogen-fixing plant. So it doesn't matter if I don't get them all to eat them, because when you plant them in next to other plants, your other plants love growing next to green beans. So keep that in mind. This here, let's see. This is another one of the purple sprouting broccolis. This was the small plant. Didn't think it was going to make it. Grew these from seed. And it fell over. Rabbits chewed it up to nothing, staked it up, and it's made a beautiful comeback on the top. It's actually in 2 parts. So we'll see what happens to it. And then, like I said, I want to put some more kitchen scraps in there and get some more leaves, which I'm already starting to put in the center pot. Then I'll cover the top with wood chips or native soil, and we'll start planting in the spring again. I never even put anything in that one over there. Look at that. Just loading up twigs and branches and stuff from the garden. This is a collard field. This is one plant. It was in that pot. It left the pot. It's probably set root all over here. Anywhere it touches the ground, there's probably roots in there. But it just winds and winds and winds and goes all through there. And right now it's very sparse. Why is it sparse? Because of the rabbits have been eating the bottoms. They pull the leaf off and run off with the leaves. But that's okay. And this will really bush up in the summer as well. It will get droopy on really hot days, but it pops up in the evening. It's amazing. But that is just one big plant. Look at that. And that's part of it. That big plant there, it's all part of it. See how it comes through the pot there? Okay, and this is just one of my tubs that I compost in place, and this is kind of the red-green Swiss chard coming up, and it's still alive. So I'm going to leave it because I'm not doing anything right now. So we'll have to see it. Here is that papaya. We believe this is a strawberry papaya. Look at this. Still full of papayas. Now the other one is throwing papayas finally. We'll see if it makes it. But I think this tree is the one that's pulling everything for itself. So technically we should chop the other tree down. So we'll see what we're going to do. But this is why I don't know if I want that papaya tree down there to grow in my garden, because it's so big and they get bigger. So I don't know if I really want that in the garden. And then it creates a lot of shade too. And I don't know if I want that much shade. I mean, it might be nice in the summer. It's really something I have to think about. And then I've got a lot of little ones coming up. I'm not sure yet what I want to do. So we'll have to see. But they do get big, and that trunk will get 3-4 times bigger than that. Let's see, what is back here? Again, more dazzling blue kale back there. I can do a lot of cuttings off of that if I want. So I haven't done anything. Like I said, I haven't done anything. I'm just starting to chop some things up and throw them in bins and get ready to do something. I'm just not sure because we're still, having cold weather. So we'll see what happens at night. It's been getting upper 40s and we're not staying in the 50s yet. Once we stay in the 50s and it's warmer, then I can start thinking about planting. See, another pot that's not draining. So I'm going to have to punch some more holes or see why it's not draining. That's doing good. Garlic chives, and of course this is our moringa. That is something I want to grow a whole lot more of. I don't care, where I put them right now. I can keep them in pots and control them more and have shorter, smaller trees. But that is the miracle tree. That's got the best vitamins. That is an amazing plant. So I'm going to really concentrate on moringa. And I do want to do a video on that, because it made me a little nervous that people were running to go buy moringa trees, and I do have something to say about that. So let me try to get something together on that. But that is the backside. See, I can step back here. I cleared a lot. And you can see the backside of what everything is going on and growing. And I'm trying to clear things so I can kind of analyze where and what I want to put in what place. And I want to make it easy for me to get to plants, not plant is zucchini back there and then I can't climb back there. And then we have to worry too. We do have rattlesnakes, so I have to make sure I'm not stepping on one of those, which I have never done so far. I've stepped on gopher snakes quite a few times. And they get really mad too, because they hang around and they get used to being around, and then you step on them and they're not really happy about that. Okay, so that's this part of the yard. Now we're going to walk in the other part, because I do want to show you about microclimates. Everything is microclimates. And over here again, this is just celery growing. I've got to clean this up. I think this one's pretty much toast. I'm going to chop that out. See how this is celery, and this has got such a fine seed. Most of the seed is gone, but it blows everywhere and it just grows everywhere. And then I've got more mint. I think I did forget something over there. I've got more mint and purple kale growing there, and see, more purple kale growing here. Let's go back over one more time. I think I did want to show one more thing. Now I stepped over here and the sun's coming out a little bit. All right, got the walking onions growing in there, celery's coming up in there, and then the sweet potatoes coming up. I did not plant sweet potato. That's the flower, but it came up in my compost in place, and I do know there is sweet potatoes in there. So I think I'm going to pull them out, probably use them, because I'd rather grow zucchini here. I can get to it, it's easy to get to, and I want to make sure that I think more on where I'm growing things. The problem is a lot of times things come up and I just don't have the heart to pull them out, so I leave them, and that's why I end up with just the jungle, and sometimes I can't get to everything. So I do want to plant something else there. Here I want to plant some more squash as well. This is chocolate mint. Now this mint is doing beautiful. I think it's picking up some of the warmth from the wall, being close to the ground, the soil, and in the container, because I'm getting chocolate mint and it has not died back. It's even coming through the bottom. There's a strawberry mint. I discuss that all the time. Smells good. I will not make tea out of that. But it's in a pot, so hopefully I can contain it, because I do not want that wild. I don't like it. And then I've got, it just doesn't taste good. And then there's sage. And then, of course, the celery that's coming up, and little bits of Swiss chard that just came up. And I think I've got a little bit of parsley back there, too. And flat leaf parsley. Okay, let's go back to the other side. This is the other moringa tree, the one that got chewed to the ground and came back. And Gary says, you planted it too close to the house. Yes, I did. But you know what? I can stake it. I can move it when I'm ready. It's still struggling. We'll see what happens when, you know, the weather warms up. Here is just old squash plants that never died away totally. That is potato. And that I did plant. I had a potato in the house that was growing. Obviously, it wasn't irradiated. And it was growing really good. And I wasn't going to eat it. So I stuck it in there. So I know I planted potato. Now, this is interesting. This is a tomato that came up that's kind of old. It's been here all winter. This is a cutting. I didn't do anything. This is just a cutting. Let me step over here. I saw this plant was struggling. This is the tomatoes I really like. It grows all over the fence here. So I cut a piece off. There's certain parts of the tomato plant that you can cut and grow. And then there's certain parts you cannot grow. So I took the part you could grow, cut it off, very simple, and all I did was just stick it in that pot there. And it grew, and look how beautiful it is. It's two pieces, see? It took off and grew in 2 shots. It grew up, so I've got 1 plant, but 2 shots growing out of there, 2 growths coming out of that, and it's doing really good, and I bet if nothing gets to it, it's going to do, see now the sun is gone. It's going to do fantastic this spring. So we'll see what happens, but I really do like these. They're just these great tasting little tomatoes they grow. And look at that, all through there, just tiny, tiny little tomatoes. And it did really good. Had a little bit, probably struggled with the cold, but we'll see what comes back. After all, it's a plant. If it doesn't make it, you plant something else. You have to experiment to see what will grow in your yard. Okay, now we're going through the gates. This too is going to have to be freshened up. This is just a radish that I guess is going to go to seed. One already did, as you can see. This is the flower, and it's been throwing seeds, but the birds are probably eating it. There's a tomato that's falling down. I'll kind of pick that up and see where I'm going to go from there. We had a lot of oranges the other day. I was really upset. Let me walk over here. That tree was so full of oranges. I was sitting there eating them. Seedless oranges, I think. And I went back the next day. I thought, gee, I better collect them. All of them were gone. The squirrels took them and hid them. I couldn't believe it. They're not real big on the cocktail grapefruit, but the oranges, yeah, they took them. I did find one and I ate it, but they just took them. So you got to really watch those tree squirrels. All right, so let's see. Let's go over here. See, celery comes up everywhere. It's my rosemary. See how it's split in the center? I have to get my camera out here. I have a feeling that the coyotes come in at night and roll in my rosemary. Okay, that's a little papaya I stuck there, and I pulled it out of the tub down there. I think I've talked about this before, and that one is still hanging in there, so we'll see. And this is why I don't know if I want it in my yard. Look at the trunk on this thing. See, I don't know if I really want that in the middle of my garden. I'm thinking of just growing papayas out here. Because you think about it, you're going to grow a great big papaya tree in the middle of my garden where I walk all the time. And I'm going to be picking fruit, you know what, once a week or whatever, once it starts, which is great. But in the meantime, I can have so many other things growing, picking every day. And it's big. I mean, I'm going to lose 3 feet of my walkway. Now, if it gets super tall, then I can stand under it and watch papayas drop on my head. No, I'm kidding. But I don't know if I really want that there. So the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking no. I may move it or pull it out. So I'll have to think about that. Now see how beautiful these 2 papayas are doing. I'm going to call them trees. I know they're plants, they're not trees, but let's just, for the sake of talking about them, let's just say, look at these 2 beautiful papaya trees. See how green they are all the way around? Now notice the canyon, the beautiful canyon, and notice the breeze. See how the trees are blowing and a beautiful breeze? It's coming up kind of at an angle, the breeze. And look at that. All the leaves are gorgeous. These 2 papayas are very happy here, no doubt. You're growing papayas. The leaves are beautiful. Now let me swing you over here. Look at this one. Still growing fruit, still got new growth on top. It's a happy papaya plant. Same type as the others because we've picked papayas from this, but look at the leaves. Look at this. These leaves are gone. I'm not going to pull them off yet because it's sheltering the plant. Now, this is what I'm talking about, microclimates. Microclimates are through your whole yard. They could literally be inches apart from each other. This tree has no shelter at all. This particular tree, let me see if I can step over here, gets the canyon breeze straight onto that side of the tree. Notice that side of the tree is worse than the other side. So even though it may only be 50, 45 at night, wind chill factor is going to be cooler. And then, of course, with morning dew, it's even going to blow on it and be cooler. Basically, the leaves are getting like sunburn. It's getting frozen. So these leaves are not doing well with the weather as far as the canyon breeze. This is a microclimate. Those two trees, though they are catching a little bit of the breeze, are being sheltered by this tree. Now, it could be as simple as just slightly moving over a little bit, which might give it a little bit of a breeze difference coming through, because you're looking at the canyon this way. But those two trees on top of that, see the weeping bottle brush? That weeping bottle brush is picking the wind up first. That's a microclimate. So these two trees are not they're not getting that cold wind chill factor as much. And it could be 1 or 2 degrees, as little as that, to make such a big difference to that tree. That tree's going to be fine, so don't worry about it. It's going to be perfectly fine. Even the little one down here. Look at that. Even the little one's getting more cold air through here. So being over, let's say 10 feet, that 10-foot difference, the difference with the weeping bottle brush, the whole thing changes and you've got a complete different microclimate for the papayas here versus there. Oh, lovely. The squirrels are coming through. See the difference? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's got microclimates in their yard. You have to analyze them. You have to look at them. And sometimes you wonder, why is that tomato plant doing so well and the one, 8 feet over is not? That's all it takes. It's either too warm, too cold. This is the coolness. Papayas like it a little bit warmer. Those have got a little bit more shelter. They're slightly over. I mean, the canyon right now, let's see, as I stand, is right here. So yes, this tree is going to get more canyon breeze. I would think that one would too, but the way it comes up, those trees are sheltered by that little bottle brush. And here is a pomegranate that's lost all its leaves, so it's not going to shelter this at all. So that cold draft, that slight cold draft blowing on this tree all day, did this to the leaves. Now, if I was going to cut them off, I would not snap them off right now, even though there's no fruit. I always worry about it. The papayas are leaning on there. I just cut them. But what this is doing as well, these leaves are protecting the trunk of the papaya. So I'm not going to touch it. Right now, nothing. Once the weather warms up, I'll snap those leaves off or I'll cut them off and I'll drop them in the compost tub next to it and let them compost in place because they like a lot of breaking down matter. But no, I'm not going to do anything right now. But that's just something I wanted to really stress on, how we all have microclimates and how microclimates are so important for different plants. And that's why something might grow in your yard better than somebody else's and vice versa. Okay, let's take a walk over to the wall and then to the truck bed. I think that'll be it for today because I think I've already made this way too long. But I really wanted to talk about this because this has been fascinating. The weather, isn't that beautiful? Big rainstorm coming in. They said bigger than what we had the other day, and we had 1.5 inches, Gary said, in one night. Okay, let's walk over to the wall. So now we're going over to the wall. See, we've had a lot of rain. Gary's got all kinds of swales dug underneath, so the water's being directed to different areas. But let's go over here. So there's the bathtub I want to work on. Been still composting in there. I should say, as you can see, eggshells and things. Gonna put something in there, probably zucchini, and I want to put a water feature in there too. I have ideas. Oh, look at the baby lizard. That's a little guy. So we've got that covered right now. See how you just put some wire on top so the coyotes wouldn't get in there? And I'll get that together sometime in the spring. There is the other two-tier. There's just a bucket in the center that I compost in place in the center as everything's growing. And nothing's in here right now. This beautiful Swiss chard. My gosh, look at this. The birds haven't found this one. Look at that. The weather has just been perfect for it. It's growing next to this compost tub, you know, this compost in place tub. And this is where I always talk about, remember where you place your containers. Because if you're putting it on soil, you can plant around it. When you've got holes, like I've got holes here, see, and there's holes all the way around. When you water that and any of the water leaches out, it's going to feed something next to it as well. And you can grow fabulous plants, especially vegetable plants, right next to these containers. Now, if you're on cement, you can't do it. But see if you can put something underneath that you can catch the water and then water it back into your plants. Because that water is valuable too, because that's like a compost tea. But that's why that's doing so good, that Swiss chard. It's just getting fed from these two containers right now, and the third one in the center, that don't even have anything in it yet. I took out all the old squash, the zucchinis plants that were in there and everything, and just threw them back in there, and it's being composted down all winter. But this plant is thriving off of the compost tea that is leaching out of those containers. So keep that in mind. Nothing here. Celery, of course, comes up everywhere. This tomato plant really needs a lot of staking, but look at this. Again, we are getting so many tomatoes. And yes, the plant, you know, is doing poorly. It's not even supposed to be growing this time of the year, this one, but it's doing really good. It's getting warmth from the wall. So even though it's getting some of the breeze coming through here, it's been getting warmth from the wall, and it's just been thriving on throwing so many tomatoes. I mean, look at this. I can't even fathom on how many are in there. It's just doing so well. And it's left. It's in a small pot back there. Let me see if I can just get in there for a minute. I do have, no, something ate that. I have to trim this. See the plant? Okay, so that tomato plant is growing in that pot. And the roots have left and gone into this wooden, I guess raised bed, you could say, that Gary put together. And then it's going up, and it's trailing up the wall. And even though it's got a lot of dead leaves, it still has so much new growth that it's still continuing to grow and throw tons of tomato. I'm just about ready to grab one. I didn't have breakfast, did I? No, I did not. Look at this. You know what I do a lot of times? And then I wonder, gee, how did that tomato get here? I go ahead sometimes and I pick tomatoes that I'm eating in the garden. And I squeeze the seeds in. Oh my gosh. This is so juicy. But I leave them there, and then I get a new tomato plant. Look at the bean. One lonely little green bean. Isn't that cute? It came up. I showed that 2 weeks ago. There was nothing there. It was like a little dot. So I got a green bean there. Look, I can have dinner. Gary and I can fight over a green bean. But yeah, that's just really cool. So a wall, if you've got a wall, that's another microclimate, because that wall holds the heat. When the sun comes out, it just absorbs the heat and holds it. And at night, when it's cold, you can feel the heat radiate out on you. Did you ever lean up on a wall? I did. It's so warm. It's amazing. Here's an eggplant. These are the white ones. I didn't get these off on time, but here, let me see if I can get down here. That's what they're supposed to look like. This one turned yellow, but see? If it doesn't smell, I can smell it, then I can use it. If it has a metallic smell, I don't use it. It may be fine, but sometimes it just doesn't taste good to me. But those are the white, I don't even know what variety it is. It actually came up from seed, As far as I remember, it just came up on its own. And it came up in the ground. So I don't think there's a pot there. And it's just been going really good. So we'll see how it goes. And then again, red Swiss chard. And the tubs are there, but there's nothing really planted in them yet. I haven't done anything. I think I dropped some beans in here. See a tomato? Probably because I ate a tomato and squeezed some seeds in there. And that tomato plant, even though it was winter, decided to come up. It's warm. It's got warmth from the wall. It's got warmth from the tub. So it came up. And that's how a lot of my plants come up. Where they come from, it's just the seeds. And then, of course, celery. See, that's all celery. Celery, if I let it grow, it will come up everywhere. And what's nice about celery transplant's really easy. So it's a real easy plant to transplant. Some plants are temperamental, but celery, I have pulled them up when they're big, and Gary's put them in his yard, in his garden, and they just keep growing. So the ones that we're growing here don't seem to mind being transplanted. So that's good. I left those. So right now I've got plans for the wall. I talked about it 2 weeks ago. I think I'm going to put tubs along here. I don't want him to build me anything. The wood's going to break down, and it's a lot of work. And oh, that's what I want to say. See the wire he put up to keep the rabbits out? Yeah, right. That's a joke. They go over this. See this? He found it in the trash. Somebody threw it away, and he ran and put it up here. So it might deter some of them. But I was watching on my video camera the other day, and I could not believe that my cameras were picking those rabbits up that were climbing on my 5-gallon buckets in my yard and playing and fighting. So I know how they can really, really climb. And I didn't know that they can climb so well. But I'm thinking of just going with tubs, and I think I'm going to tower it. And maybe I'll sit out here with the weed. No, that's a sow thistle, and we do use that in our green drinks. But, you know, I've got a big wall here with nothing here. Gary has finally cleared all the wood chips that were here. And I've got great soil. If I wanted some soil, I just have to move the wood chips and then dig out some of the soil and then leaves from the garden. I could have this whole wall going. Because I was going to use the side of the house, which I believe I showed you way down there. But it's too shady, and it's away from, well, there is kind of a hose there. I don't know. I want more sun. So I'm thinking of doing it here. I don't know how much I'm going to do, but I want to tower it. So in case they are getting into the bottom ones, I can have some on the top. And oh, that's great. Just give them more pedestals to climb on. But I have ways of keeping them out. So there won't be a problem if I want the rabbits to not get into certain tubs. So I've got all kinds of ideas, and I've got other ideas too I have to experiment with that I figured out one night that I don't think anybody even knows. And I told Gary, come out here, I want to show you something. And he went, oh my gosh. So I've got ideas I want to try. But anyways, I digress. Let's get back to this. I think I'm going to start lining up tubs, and little by little I can build a garden there. And like I said, instead of the wood, just get a really big tub, then get another plastic tub that's smaller, and then I can put another one on top. So I can go 3 deckers. And I think that would be really, really cool. Again, some people say, oh, they break down. You know what? I've got tubs in my yard now that are over 3 years old, and they're going good. The only thing I would say on the tubs, check the numbers. I've done videos on that. And as long as the numbers are safe, don't go with anything that's clear. You can use the ones that have opaque to them and they're clear, but the problem is I have found that those break down. Why? I don't know. The sun seems to break them down, but they will break down. So try to stay with something that's more of a solid color if you want them to last longer. Like that. That's a solid color. But if you got it for free, if you found it in the trash, if somebody gave it to you, if you had one, it was cracked and you didn't know what to do with it, go ahead and use it. As long as the number is safe, and they usually are. And then when it breaks apart, just bust it up. You know, after the planting season, throw it in the garbage. And then keep the soil that's in it and put it in a new tub. So you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, she told me not to use a clear tub. No, you can use it. Just warning that they seem to become brittle. They seem to lose their flexibility, and then they crack. That's all. And when it starts to do that, and you know it's going to break down, at that point, just get rid of it And then you keep the soil. Don't throw the soil away. Yes, I'm going to have to do something with these poor plants because they're choking. The rabbits can't get them, but I don't know. I threw that cage on top I had here, and I've got a red one there, and then the green and red veined one there, and they're doing really good, but they're covered. So I'll have to think of something with that. Of course, this is the avocado tree that some people want to see, and I'm going to be honest, I don't want it here, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Still not sure, because I have other plans for this if I can find the time. But right now, it's just all the different Swiss chard that grew in here. The rabbits cannot get in here. Okay, then I'm going to come out here tomorrow and find rabbits in here. As far as I know, they cannot get in here. The birds can, but you know, nothing seems to be really disturbed. So everything seems to be going good. I've got the bright red growing. These are beautiful. And I use this for a lot of stuff. Our two different green drinks that I make, and I still have to get the video up on my second one. And then, of course, eggs, and I've even made coleslaw out of some of them, and they are just doing good. See, I'm starting to collect branches and stuff in here, and stuff I'm cleaning up. I've got a hole here, and it's going to drain out and water all this, and I'm thinking of putting tubs inside here, raising it up a little bit, so this way when I compost in the tubs, I've got to find an area that's clear enough, it will feed the whole truck bed. So I've got a lot of different thoughts. I have so many thoughts and not enough hours in the day. That's the problem. But this is just really fun. I really enjoy gardening. I enjoy feeling better. That's not to say I've given up everything. I should, but I still like my sweets and I still like my bad foods. You know, some of them, you know, which is mainly your sweets. But I'm telling you, when I don't eat greens and I get on a weird kick of eating potato chips and cookies and finding out that was my breakfast and that was my lunch, no joke, I know it. My body knows it. My mental thoughts know it. Everything knows it. So I know I really do enjoy feeling better. So that's why I've got to make sure I keep our greens going. And if I want to have my cookies or I want to have my potato chips or whatever, I gave up peanut brittle. No, but if I want to, I know at least I'm getting good food in me. And that's what I'm trying to promote people to do. Grow something and get some good food in you. Just get something good. And then you can do whatever else you want to do. So with that, look at that, garlic chives. It's just, I mean, it's a beautiful truck bed, but I want to do more with this again. A few years ago, we had this spaghetti squash that just trailed everywhere, and we don't want to do that again because we got sick of spaghetti squash. But I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do, and I am starting with the tub. I'd like to get another tub there. That's why I don't know if I really want the avocado tree in there. Avocados take a while to start to fruit, number one. Number two, you don't know what you're going to get. And the odds are you're going to get something really, I mean, your odds are greater that the avocado you're going to get is not going to be something you want to really eat. We've got some avocado trees on the property that come from rootstock and come from different areas below the graft. And they're stringy, and though you can mash them, put them through a sieve, get rid of the stringy bits inside, it's a pain. If you wanted an avocado tree, a good one, I would say really the right way to do it is to go to the store, buy one that's grafted, and get the variety you like, because they're all different. So make sure you know before you ever get an avocado tree what variety will grow in your area and what variety you like. The reason it's doing so well is avocados do need, the trees, a lot of water. And now that Gary put the hose bib there and I can water, it's getting a lot of water, but it's also going to pull nutrients from a lot of other things. So, like I said, the debate is still on whether I'm going to pull it out and do something else with the truck bed, because the truck bed, look at this, it's a fabulous thing to grow in. I don't have the rabbits coming in here. I don't have tree squirrels or regular squirrels, ground squirrels coming in here. Why? Step back. This is all going back to nature. Why do they not go in here? It's too open. It's completely open. It's sitting in the middle of the yard. There is no place for them to hide except for underneath where the rabbits do hide. They do like going under there and hiding. And they know that if they came here and they were eating in here, just too easily could a hawk come and take them out. So this is not considered a safe place for smart squirrels and smart ground squirrels and tree squirrels and things to forage on. So they don't bother the truck bed. Now, if I was growing in front of the truck bed, they would go under there, but they know they would have to get up. Because look, they can go up the block wall and jump in, but they don't. So again, it all goes back to nature. Everything you think about is really nature. And, you know, in order for animals to survive, they've got to think about all this stuff. Or let's put it this way, the ones that are not thinking about it, they're not here. So the smart ones survive. So I want to think about what I want to do, and if I want to pull out the avocado tree and do something else. Since I have so many projects, this is something I'm not going to do yet. Somebody might be screaming back there, pull it out and transplant it. Let me tell you something. Avocado trees, and I have even gone to a lecture once on avocado trees, and they did say they do not like being transplanted. Even buying from the store, you're risking something could happen. So transplanting is not a good thing with an avocado tree. So it probably would not do well, and the roots are just going everywhere. I can try, but the odds are it wouldn't do well, and then again, we don't even know what it's going to grow. And you're going to wait for how many years to get some avocados when I can chop and drop this, plant all kinds of fancy squash in there, and get production now. That's the whole idea. I would get production now. Here, I could be waiting and probably wouldn't get avocados for another 3 to 7 years. I will say, at one of my houses many years ago, I had an avocado tree that when I bought the house, the people did plant from seed an avocado tree. It was about 3 foot tall when I moved in. By the time I left that house, 15 years later, it was a massive tree, and it was dropping, and we were eating wonderful avocados. I don't even know what kind they were, but they were great. Funny thing was, when it started producing, I couldn't stand avocados. Then when I went to move, I missed it because I got the taste of it and loved them. So, I mean, yes, it can produce, but it's never really going to do much in here. And that's why I really have to analyze, what do I want to do? I could leave it and then heavily feed the truck bed by constantly putting kitchen scraps in there and leaves, because that avocado tree is a heavy feeder. They feed off the surface. That's why their roots are very close to the surface, and avocado trees feed on the surface. That's why if you have avocado trees, you let the leaves drop and you leave the leaves. That's very important for avocado trees. I've seen people have orchards and they bought a house, they didn't know, they rake everything up and they lose their avocado trees. Or they lose all the avocados. So you do not remove the leaves. They feed off the rotting leaves. And as the leaves fall and more fall, again, just like composting in place, they're feeding underneath as the leaves break down. So let me give it some thought. Nothing's happening right now. And I'll see if I'm going to yank that tree, chop and drop it, plant something else or whatever. But with that, have a wonderful day. Look at that. That's the tree of life. That tree that almost died when we moved in is going to be so full of hummingbird nests, mockingbirds, little song sparrows. It's amazing. They all nest in there, and it's literally the tree of life. Beautiful big tree. And here, Gary was going to have to take it down because it's split in half. But once he laid the wood chips, it just came back and it just became massive. So with that, have a wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody. So good.